Welcome, welcome. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to my house of sedition, perdition, and some contrition. Uh, okay. Well, tonight's going to be a little bit peculiar. We were supposed tonight to be doing DJ's amazing spot the difference in the videos quiz. I think that's what it is. Anyway, um, but unfortunately, because everybody is busy on separate things at the moment, Dennis is caught up on a film set, and Andy is in a meeting, and Alex is still at his current job. So it's just me. So, and if I, when I say that, I watch this number of people here. Yeah, you go, look, people dropping away already. That's really depressing when that happens. So do all stick around for at least 5 minutes. Um, so I spoke to DJ earlier and suggested that we did the quiz in June because watching an old man like me, even though I have my new young summer look, watching an old man like me fluster through would be difficult. The audio is cutting out. That's interesting. Okay. Let me know if this is any better now that I've got the mic in a little closer. No one else? Everyone else is, aha, maybe Haydar. Maybe it's your end, dude. So I've got some tea and I've got a cigarette and I am going to sit here with you guys for the next hour, answer any questions you have as honestly as I either am allowed to or possibly can, and find out, how it is for you. I've got the chat open and I will just sort of try and keep up with it, but there is a lot here. So if it goes silent, it's because I'm trying to read the chat. So I'm at the top here. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. The audio is cutting out. Enaz Dalknim. I have no idea how to say that. Hi, Jay. What are your thoughts on bringing NFB DLC to VR? Unfortunately, that is not going to happen because Not Broadcast is now finished as a thing. So unless Tiny Build are sneakily doing it on the side, one of the principal reasons, but not the only one, is that there are a lot of things that happen in the DLC that would be very difficult to do in VR. Like a classic example would be at the end of Live and Spooky, where you are joined in the room by the presence. That works great on a flat screen, but obviously doesn't work on VR. Also, the DLCs did not exactly sell millions, so I don't think that it will make the transition to VR. And to be fair, the VR port, certainly from my perspective, was a little disappointing. So to have a disappointing port of the DLCs as well, you know, um, I think it could. It's not disappointing. That's probably a bit strong, but I think we could have done more there. Obviously, we weren't in charge of that, and I don't want to slag off our porting team because they were lovely. Okay, right, Ree. Sorry the quiz didn't work out this time. Me too, and it's lovely to see you too, Ree. That's fantastic. The VR team handling it has disbanded. Yeah, they have, and that's probably for the best. Pink, hi, it's been a while. May I have a dev team catch up? What are you all doing? Well, I'm working on a new game, which I can't tell you very much or really anything about yet because I'm not ready to share with the world what I'm doing, and I don't yet have a publisher on board. But I'm working with George, our fabulous coder from Not for Broadcast, and we're prototyping, shall we say, at the moment, and running the odd play test and things like that, and just seeing if we think we've got an idea for something rather excellent that's never been done before. So we're going to try and do it. Den is currently working on a movie. I don't know which movie because he jumps around a bit. Andy is producing, uh, and Alex is doing uh, amazing sort of game design stuff. That again, I can't really say who they're doing those for or whatever because I don't know if they're allowed to say. Uh, and So that's where we're all at the moment. That's what we're all doing. So I'm having a great time. I have to say, I love this new project. I really want to show it to all of you, but I can't yet. Uh, right, so that's that question answered. Right, Lobster Gorn. Law question about bits of your life. What happened to Eamon after the Peter Clement episode? Did he retire, move to Channel 3, or is he still hosting Boyle on Channel 1? Because for me, and the canon version is the very boring first pass through. That's what actually happened. He did not retire, he did not move to Channel 3, and he hosted Boyle on Channel 1 for probably a good few more years, depending on how his therapy went. But yeah, all of the really fun things are not canon. DLCs may not be a million, but Born and Timely are forever in my heart. Thank you, Dakagi, and in mine. Actually, they were um, uh, certainly the last two very big things that I wrote. Even I wrote them in the reverse order. Andy and I wrote a lot of Time Loop together, uh, and then I wrote Boyle and wrote about 2/3 of it. Then got absolutely blocked, like writer's block, got stuck for months and then smashed out the rest after I solved a mechanics problem that made me realise I was approaching the right and the wrong way. But I'm so proud of Boyle. I think of all the little self-contained things that we did, that one was the most like going to the theatre, which I love, where you get the more the play goes on, the more you understand the characters and everything reflects on it. I really like Boyle. I'm particularly proud of Boyle in terms of writing, Time Loop in terms of just overall stupidity and scope. Pink. I will share myself. Good. I'm now in my last year of college. Oh my God, that's flown. Amazing how Not for Broadcasters evolved and changed the whole time I've been here. So remember a day I won the first contest and how happy I was to be a part of the community. Oh, that's lovely. It is a very lovely community. At some point, I suppose I'm going to have to create another Discord server for my new venture. Um, and I hope you'll all move over there with me, or not desert here, but join us there as well. Uh, Law question to Jay. Yeah, he got inspired by Peter and decided to run for politics himself. Wow, yeah, imagine. Prime Minister Eamon. Surprised this fandom is still alive. Damned. Is that an insult? Not too long ago, I finally got into the game and I'm enjoying it so far. I knew about the game since 2021. As you see, that's good. I poo poo or I papa, because it's people like you that are keeping the game alive and to a small degree me. There is even a Half-Life reference in there. Yes, there is. I'm a massive fan of Valve. Same here. Hats off. I have massive respect for the game before even finishing it. Oh, bless you. That's very, very, very kind of you. The reason the fandom is still alive, you'll discover the more time you spend here, is because of a core sort of community of people who have just been insanely loyal I'm going to venture to say have become friends despite themselves, and now treat this as a lovely hangout. Uh, but we always have had amazing mods who have sort of made sure that the community has never turned on itself, has never got nasty. Uh, and that's really good with a game that arguably has many divisive elements, or could easily see people turn on each other, and in a world which seems to be turning on itself, more and more. Uh, okay. Note to self: boring route happened canonically. Damn, he's pretty good then. Not sure what he's saying. That must be in response to that I said. Roman, I need to walk outside. Okay, have a nice walk, Roman. Uh, VOD going good. Ray go new, depending on how well his therapy went. Yep, same here. Can't wait to work in the TV field one day, even in the dubbing field in my own country. What is your country? I poo poo, and what do you want to be doing? That's interesting. Boiler's the best DLC in my heart. Thank you, DJ. That's kind. Boiler's an amazing experience. I prefer Time Loop, but Boiler's very, very close second. That's kind. Uh, we'll be the first in line. I know. I'll be. Everyone in the community is very lovely. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. We'll be hopping onto that new server. Thank you, Ree. Uh, we're trying to keep alive. As I said earlier, we may not be the biggest, but we are dedicated. And that's what it, yeah, that's it. Small but perfectly formed, I believe is the expression. One zine at a time. Amazing. I bought one of my friends not for broadcast just last week. Excited to see him play it. That's excellent. I mean, that's a lovely thing to do. Thank you for doing that. Thank you from your friend. Let's hope they enjoy it, because if they don't, then my thanks are for now. Let's get that light on there. Obviously, it's not dead. I've seen fandoms dying. Well, games die, but developers don't. And well, I mean, eventually they do. Obviously, we all do. But I'm hoping that the friends that I've made on this community, whatever I do next, each project that I do for the next, however long I've got in me making games, I hope that some of you will come with me on the whole journey, and we'll still be chatting, even if we move from place to place to place. And I'm pretty sure that Den and Alex and Andy feel exactly the same. I know the community means a lot to them as well. They're just very busy. Uh, okay, law question. Thanks, Max. Bring us back to the point, Max. I think at some point someone said parts of Bannerton were rewritten to better match George Vere as an actor. Were any other characters rewritten in any way to better suit aspects of their actors? I would imagine, although not as a conscious process, Max, that happened a lot. I'm not sure that I said parts of Patrick were rewritten to match George. I think what I probably said was George tended to rewrite his lines. George is an amazing improviser. So if you just let him go a bit and give him some sort of slack on the rope, as it were, he will give you gold after gold in take after take, to the point where sometimes with Patrick's takes, we wouldn't know which one to use, because this one would have three amazing jokes in it, but in this one he'd done three other things that were brilliant. So it was, and Patrick would crack me up as well when we were filming George. I loved filming George. I think that we wrote more and more to the characters' voices. I know because Claire is a friend of mine, I would deliberately write things for her that I knew would play to her strengths. And I know with Megan, we would, or Andrea, we would, both Alex and I wanted to push her as hard as we could because she was extraordinary. With Paul, I would give him contractions and difficult lines, and Alex used to do the same with Megan, and we used to give him tongue twisters and all sorts of weird and wonderful things to say, like false organs forward. That was all part of the fun of playing together as a group. Um, once you've like once you've got repeating actors and repeating characters, but you're still writing as you go, and I would imagine this applies with TV as well. In most shows, you start to hear that actor's voice and to see their face, and it becomes harder to separate the things you know about them as an actor and as a person from their character. There, you get to know someone and they'll tell you something from their life, and you'll think, "Oh, I could put a reflection of that. I see how that plays into your character," because all actors obviously bring a lot of themselves to the part, as well as taking the part and putting it on. It's a blend process. So I would imagine the answer is yes, but I can't give you any specific examples. I hope that answers your question, Max. Lobster gone. Nearly forgot. Okay, that's not for me. I watched one of my friends play for the first time, have their first part be part C, then watch them sit in silence. Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant, Edo. That is amazing. And I didn't say it aloud. Right, I poo poo. I live in Hungary. Interesting. How's things in Hungary? What's it like? Not sure if I'll stay in the country to work. Why is that? Currently finishing university as a TV program production. and learned a lot. Oh, that's good. That's a good course. TV doesn't seem to be going away for a while. Uh, I hope anyway. Got to disappear. Well, forget all those questions then. Uh, everyone have a nice day. Bye. Ray go Noom. Oof. Oh yeah, okay. That's a response to Path C. Yeah. Source was only an option to affect the future, but I kept it at a temporary age. I didn't give a concrete answer. Good. Any character you would like to be starring in bits of your life? What do you mean, Deej? Oh, as in a guest, as in like instead of Peter, if it was someone else. Is that what you mean? Okay, good question. Who do we want to know a lot more about? Who do you feel? I suppose that question is whose characters aren't fleshed out as much as one would like. I mean, I've got so many questions about Megan. I'd love to know more about her relationship life, her past. We don't actually learn anywhere near as much about Megan as we do about Jeremy. I feel we get to know Jeremy quite well. Alan, we learn quite a lot about his past or not a lot, but we learn a little bit in Time Loop about Alan's past. Yeah. Who would you guys like to see as a guest on Bits of Your Life? There's about 25 of you here or something. I can't count this screen that quickly. Yeah, 24. A boil for Colin. Oh my God. Imagine having to write a boil for Colin. Yeah, I'd like to know more about Alan's shitty father. Yeah, but Alan's got a shitty father because look at him. You know, um, he's just so broken. Uh, the notion of Eamon having to deal with multiple sprongs. My God, multiple sprongs on there. Yeah, not sprong number one, because we couldn't afford to do 15 extra thumbs. Bozeman would be a good one. Dorothy, Helena. Yeah, Katie. Yeah, Katie is a really underfleshed character as well, underserved character. Um, Partly because she's introduced as a foil, I think, to Alan, very much, and it was because of lockdown that we brought her back, and we just really liked working with her. Um, but you were constantly with a cast with a story as broad as Not for Broadcast, and a story that's actually about a political change. It's made up of lots and lots of small stories, like America at the moment. They're going through quite a shift, a paradigm shift, and within that are all these small stories that catch the news, like the poor fella who got shipped out to El Salvador, who's completely innocent, and they've asked them to return him home, and they can't get him back. There's one story that now that character could be an entire movie on his own. You know, within a not for broadcast context, that but we would have to just do them once because we really wanted to try and create the idea of this much bigger world by giving examples of a Britney or a this or a that, and to show how the cultural change happens through these different bits of a society. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. I wonder if anyone has asked about this, but what happened to Angela that she became a paraplegic? No one has asked about this because no one cares, Theodore. Theodore, you are the one who cares about Angela, and it's good to have you here for that reason. Showing a lot of heart there, my friend. Um, it's never been established in canon. Obviously, for me, it's an accident rather than a degenerate. I think it's an accident that happens to her. Like she comes off a horse, like Christopher Reeve, or something like that, or a car crash, because of the way that Jeff talks about it implies that everything's fine and then everything really isn't. Uh, I don't think Angela died, FNL. I think Jeff left her. Yeah, Jeff definitely left her because he left her for Norm de Plume. Al did a lot of the later lore for Jeff, and I created Angela. So between the two of us, we really messed with his life. My brother can't make it today, but wants me to ask what character you think changed the most from their original vision. That's a really, really good question. Probably Alan, because he was going to be a one scene gag, and there was going to be a rapper whose name was Wildish, and he was going to be the leader of the revolution, and he became Jesus. And we kind of did this swap because we did the scene with Alan, and people responded really well to Alan, and he was really good fun to work with. He was doing different takes and different ad libs as he came in. He could play comedy, but we knew that he had a really good, or Al knew that he was really good at serious drama as well. So uh, Wildish became Jesus, and Alan went from being a sort of one scene, uh, sort of, you know. No, Alan isn't Jesus. In the original scripts, Pink, we had a character, this is way back before we even started filming, we had a character called Wildish who would have become the Alan James role in the story. But once we had this Alex Jones conspiracist, we really liked him and we loved the actor. We decided that that would be a great place actually for Disrupt's leader to come from, and an unexpected face under the mask. And it enabled us to then do a really humanizing. Yeah, that's it. Instead of Thunder Twat in the alpha, I think it is. Yeah. Uh, yeah, I like the way that Alan, everything Alan says pretty much is right, even though it's kind of wrong as well. I really liked that Alan James actually is right, and I loved that he was the leader of the arguably right wing Disrupt, or certainly picked by the right wing shadowy leadership of Disrupt. Okay. I do like the fact that Alan became the role that he did, the subtle, unintentional foreshadowing. Uh, yeah, it wouldn't have been totally unintentional because I think I yeah, no, it would have been unintentional. Other than we were foreshadowing, we knew what was going to happen with Disrupt. We knew what advance we're going to do. We had that worked out very, very early. The overall global political story in the background. Um, so the foreshadowing within Alan's conspiracies is deliberate. Okay, lobster gone. Okay, so law question going into gameplay. Does Helena actually die? Uh, it depends uh, on what you do with those adverts. If you don't play any adverts, they stop employing her and she doesn't die. So there is no canonical answer to that. Rather, like in the main game, because we're not dealing with alternate realities like we are in Bits of Your Life, what happens in your playthrough is what happened. Okay, so, but I'm pretty sure there is a way for her not to die, or that she doesn't die. Oh, one of the pre-rolls says the late grade. Well, then she always dies. Yeah, it's just a matter then of whether it happens off screen. But I'm sure that I mean, this is a few years ago now, and my memory's not the best. At the red carpet, there's one version of Blunderclatch where he's got her, I think, got an urn, hasn't he, or something, and he says something about they pop her on a skateboard. And in the other version of that, yes, no, that's just to do with whether you pissed off Blunderclatch or not. So yes, so she dies. Yeah, she gets killed. It's just up to you whether you show it or not. I take my earlier statement back. Uh, right, it was Megan saying it. Either way, it's in there. One question: did Eamon's many children immediately hand him over to the transition centre? Great question, Takaji. After all, we never saw Boyle in the coming up laters. Yeah, very good point. We didn't see Boyle in the coming up laters. That's because we didn't know when I was writing those early coming up laters that Boyle even existed as a show because the DLCs were not in the original plan. The DLCs came about because we wanted to tell more stories with these actors and these characters, and because Not for Broadcast did well. But there was no original plan for DLCs. Uh, so that's why Boyle doesn't appear in the coming up laters. But that is a shame. Uh, you can tell that we did know about the DLCs by the time we got to episode three, because we were, by the time I wrote the coming up laters for episode three, because they were always done very late, pretty much towards the end, because they would have to be long or short enough to cover the pre-roll of the first section, so they were written kind of that way. I did know Live and Spooky was coming, which is how I managed to get it in a DLC in the coming up later at that point. Okay, they probably did transition him though. I mean, I don't think they. I think he'd have been a fairly hectic dad. More about time loop. Why is there that X-ray thing in modern verse? The X-ray thing. That I think you're talking about the screen on the right of the player comic. Come back to me if you are, which you can swipe around in. If you're that's yeah, you are. Okay. Yeah, that's Dennis, right? That's what happens if you leave Dennis and I think maybe Steve. I should possibly blame Steve too, and say just put some stuff in the rooms. And Dennis decides uh, that Jeremy Bobbleson has been heavily abused by Bozeman. Uh, yeah, that's what that is. If Incisors DLC is a thing, who would be the guest and what would they be talking about? If we were to do like a whole episode of Incisors. The thing about Incisors is that it is a bit like Jeremy Donaldson. It's trying to be very intelligent. It's in Britain we had Jeremy Paxman, Newsnight with Jeremy Paxman, and he would be so fucking rude to the guest, like so fucking rude. It was marvelous. There was one time he asked, I think it was Michael Howard, he asked him, "Did you threaten to sack him?" 15 times or 14 times, loads of times. It was amazing. It still didn't get an answer. Um, so who would an incisors guest wouldn't be? You wouldn't get Jay's Us, you wouldn't get Little C on incisors. You wouldn't get Jeff Algebra. You'd get the Prime Minister. You'd get well. There are no members of their cabinet. They're very presidential in the way they go about things. Advance. Um, who would you get? You might get, that little kid with the really punchable face that wins a team award and is clearly a little Nazi. He might be a guest on Incisors because he was, he had some Oxford Eton Neverlay. That's it, Neverlay, our little incel Nazi. Um, yeah, SOB, brilliant character. Oh no, sobbing. Well, SOB was fine too. Yeah, he would be a good incisors guest. Katie, yes. Ree, definitely. Katie would be a great guest on incisors. She would have a decent conversation. Oh, these glasses are broken, and I haven't been asked to go to the opticians to get a new set. So every so often, the lens falls out. Tried super glue, didn't work. The glamorous life of the game dev. Speaking of the roller skate with Helena from earlier, does Wild Child Sophia actually make androids, or was she actually just high? She was definitely way too high and being misled by her board. Uh, she doesn't make androids, and that's in a dream sequence, I believe, isn't it? Pretty sure that's in Lockdown. Uh, if Incisors DLC is, then Katie on Incisors, let this stay an if, yes. A Bobbleson in Bozeman's rectum, yes. Yeah, about this. Sorry, accidental emoji react, blah, blah. Edward Neverlay. Also, do you think Adrian would have a mental breakdown for hosting Incisors for an hour and 15 minutes talking about how good Liberation Night. In, I'm not sure what you're saying here, DJ. Do you think Adrian I don't think Adrian would ever have a mental breakdown. I have to say. I think Adrian is a very balanced person, and what they do is they slowly wreck his show. That's one of the things I really enjoy in the coming up laters is how incisors and all of the TV shows at the beginning of level one, you're almost in the incisors universe, the things that are coming up later seem important and like they're about things. And as the game goes on, each coming up later is telly becomes more and more dumbed down until by the end Adrian is interviewing like a parrot and stuff. And although it would annoy him, I think he'd become more and more annoyed. I don't think he would break down. Yeah, he managed to piss off Chester. But he managed to piss off Chester. Chester is the type of person, remember, like a lot of us, who will only get annoyed on behalf of a friend. We don't get annoyed to protect ourselves or defend ourselves. But if you go after somebody we care about, and I think it says more about Chester's feelings about Magnus. Uh, he has enormous platonic love, Magnus. Um, and that's something the game explores a lot is platonic love because uh, there is a weird belief in the world that that's not a thing. And yet my life has always, I have many platonic female friends. Uh, some admittedly are ex-partners, but now they are platonic female friends, and those friendships are incredibly valuable to me. Um, and also have some very close platonic male friends who I love, who I've known for 30 years and I care for very deeply and would never see struggle or homeless or any of those things. And I do feel that that is a form of platonic love, certainly in my life because I've had multiple partners over time rather than getting married or having one partner for life. My friends and those platonic loves have been more consistent. So maybe that influences how I feel about platonic love. But I think Chester adores Magnus. For all the horrible things Magnus says to him, for all the ways he treats him badly, I think Chester loves Magnus very deeply. I think that that's why he's so keen to get him together with, the love of his life, with Dolores. I think the way he talks about that, you deserve happiness. I think there's something really touching about Chester. Uh, yeah. Okay. Next, what's next in the chat? Say what you want about me, but you don't. But you dare speak about them. Yes, exactly that, Ree. Uh, or in the screw tape letters, which I often refer to, um, there's a bit where the demon is trying to. He's receiving advice, and he's like, "I'm trying to get him to be angry on behalf of people," or the devil says, "Get him angry on behalf of people," because they get much more angry that way, and I think we see that on the internet all the time. I think that this group would find that offensive. I'm not actually in that group. I don't have any right to speak for that group. But not only have I decided to get angry about it on behalf of this group, but I've somehow also quite offensively lumped this group into a homogenized brain that all believes the same thing. So there are so many problems with this uh, getting offended on behalf of that. Okay, that's enough on that. Uh, disruptive question. Is there any backstory for the other disrupt leaders? We know a lot about Jacob and Ivan, but the Viscount and General Masters seem a bit underdeveloped. Uh, yes, they are. Uh, they're shadowy. They are underdeveloped a little uh, for a number of reasons. One is we, at first, when we first started writing on Not for Broadcast, Disrupt was going to grow up more as a from the streets movement against a very problematic left wing regime. But that story kind of says left wing bad, and it implies right wing good. And nobody at my company believed that, including me or Al. We believed, and I think both of us still do, I don't like speaking for him, obviously, that it is the extremes of all movements that cause the problems. It's what would be called, it's a pretty it's a centrist position. Uh, it is important to disrupt. It is important to move fast and break things. But when you're moving too fast and you're breaking too many things, that's not good. So, for example, uh, I mean, there are many examples on the right in America at the moment, the way Doge is going about things. But there are also many examples on the left where we're very quick to call people prejudiced or transphobic or homophobic or racist, uh, when actually they're probably not. You know, it's just that they like Harry Potter or whatever, you know. And these extremes that where we all scream at each other, you know, we're not talking. And unless we're talking, we're not going to get anywhere screaming at each other. In fact, we will just screaming at each other leads to shooting at each other. That's a very, I think if you don't talk to people you disagree with and you can't exchange views, we are, as a society, in a lot of trouble. And that is kind of what Not for Broadcast is about. And it's also about the death of a commonality of truth. In Not for Broadcast, the the news slowly becomes light entertainment, depriving the populace, the internet free populace, of any source of truth. And what's happened in our world is that there are now so many different truths that contradict alternative truths, alternative facts, that again we've lost sight of what the truth is. And that's really dangerous because if you don't know what the truth is, you're so open to being manipulated. If you don't know what science is, Arthur C. Clarke, I think it said, you know, it looks a hell of a lot like magic if you go back far enough. And it's that scam. Uh, we don't know. And because the truth has become not so easy to pin down, that's one of the themes of Not for Broadcast for me is remove the people from the truth and then you can tell them anything. See you, Eno. Thanks for coming. Lovely to see you. And now we have Al that's quite happy to tell. We have AI that's quite happy to tell people what their truth is and a segment of society happy to allow it to think for them. Yeah, I mean, that is dangerous, isn't it? The more sophisticated the reasoning becomes of the AI, the more it is hallucinating. That's a big problem in AI at the moment. You know, I'm very fascinated by AI, and I would like it to develop in a sort of Roddenberry-esque, Asimovian sort of underpinned by some fairly decent protocols. I'd like it to be an enhancement. You know, when I watch Star Trek, the ship's computer does not feel like the evil enemy, even though there's always a bottle episode where it becomes it, and I do acknowledge that. But, you know, the usefulness of AI and its potential to get us closer to what I see as a utopian existence of energy surplus, clean energy surplus, and um, very, very, very little employment and people able to spend their days running by the river or writing songs or doing whatever they want to do because we have a surplus of energy, we have a surplus of matter, you know, a Roddenberry-esque society. I think that would be a really lovely thing for everybody. I'm not saying, by the way, people should be forced not to work. If people want to work, great. You know, I just like the idea that nobody has to if they don't want to. I don't think you'll ever stop musicians from playing, or people from performing, or inventors from inventing, or any of the wonderful things that we do. Uh, and right, here we go. And yet, so much of it instead is being rooted into taking over creative fields that it perhaps shouldn't. I'm not sure about taking over. I have used AI, not a lot, but I have used it because I can't draw. I can't draw. My visuals are bad, and at the moment I'm working on a tiny budget and can't afford to pay someone who can draw to do the sheer amount of drawing that I might want to do. I've also used it in Photoshop to extend images, but what I've noticed is that AI cannot draw the things I want it to draw because they haven't been drawn before, so it hasn't seen it. Um, I didn't realize, DJ, you're saying it's discouraging people from going into the creative fields. I haven't noticed a shortage of creatives. Uh, I think that it will render some creative people unemployed. Stock footage, can't see that lasting. Stock photography, for these things are maybe going to lose out. But like I said, nobody wants to go and see an AI do a gig. Nobody wants to buy a drink from a barman that's a robot. Not more than once. It might be a novelty. Like AI and tech, to extend the musical analogy, I've no interest in going to see a band that isn't real humans, except if AI and robotics could let me see the Beatles accurately, I would go and see that because that cannot be seen in real life. But to see a group of robots perform songs that they wrote just doesn't really interest me particularly. I'm interested in the human experience. That's what Shakespeare was about. That's what all great writing is about, is the experience of being human. And we are nowhere near AI being able to understand the experience of being human. We're not even in a position where AI can draw an overflowing glass of wine. It's a word predictor still, even though it's a really good one, and I see that it helps. It's good for coding sometimes. Vibe coding is a thing now. That's interesting. People who people who've had ideas, but in the past the barrier to entry was maybe they had to learn coding, but maybe they're dyscalculate. Maybe they have all sorts of reasons why they just can't learn code. Not everyone is a natural coder, but they might have ideas. With AI, we might now, those people can express their ideas. So, in much the same way that when electric guitars became cheap enough, loads of punk bands exploded. And thanks to cheaper recording studio stuff like software recording and virtual instruments, people who, whereas before they couldn't produce music, have produced amazing music. Um, I think it can democratize. I'm I'm sure that there will be AIs writing shitty pop songs right now, and some of them will do well on Spotify. But I've yet to see an AI write a Bohemian Rhapsody or a Wren or a Paranoid Android or almost anything by the Beatles. I think we are a long way from that. They're good cover artists, but that isn't what you should try to be if you're an artist. You should try and bring something new, I think. DJ, I think I see somewhere that AI has now been able to make a picture of a full glass of wine. Ah, there we go, another step forwards. Uh, but you understand the point I'm making, that the level of hallucination is increasing with the complexity of the AI, not decreasing. DJ, I have of course watched Severance. It is the greatest piece of TV I've seen maybe in a decade. I absolutely adore it. Um, I I know some people found the second season a bit slow and difficult. Don't worry if you haven't seen Severance. Absolutely no spoilers coming from me. And please don't spoil it in the comments. If you haven't seen Severance and you are in this chat, you would have been better spending the last hour watching Severance. To be totally honest, it's smarter than me. It's better acted, and the camera works better. FNL, give it a go, dude. Or I think you're a dude because your picture is a cartoon dude. Um, yeah, I would do try it. Even if you just get a 3 months trial of Apple TV. Although to be fair, Apple TV is the best to my mind of all the streaming services. It's worth it. Yeah, give it a go. Give it a go. Oh, of course it's. When you said it's Peter J, DJ, I thought you meant Peter Champion, our old programmer, was FNL, and I've just been sitting there trying to work out how you get there. Yeah, give it a go, FNL. To be fair to you, if you don't like the first couple, um, you probably won't like it. I like it because it's conceptual. It is on Apple TV, Haydar. As are, and if any of you do get Apple TV for a couple of months, you can get these subscriptions with a phone. They throw them in this country, and you can sometimes get that free month. There are a fair few shows on there that I would say are some of the best TV of the last, well, probably few years. Really, really good, smart. Silo is very good. That's sci-fi. Most of what I'm going to recommend is sci-fi. Foundation is all right. Um, there's a show called Bad Monkey that's fantastic. There's another show called Bad Sisters that's even better. That's an amazing show. Shrinking is excellent. The Morning Show is excellent. Apple are really knocking it out of the park. So although they don't have many shows, what they do have is of a very high average quality. There's the odd duffer, but not many. You can pretty much guarantee the show will be pretty good. I have watched Andor, Flux, and I have also loved it so far. I think that it's because it's the most grown up Star Wars since Empire. I also think it's because we know that it's at a time where the rebels are not winning. We know what's going to happen. I thought it would lose a lot from the fact that we know Cassian has to survive because of Rogue One, but it doesn't. I think it's a bit of a masterpiece, to be totally honest. It's might be my favourite thing that I'm watching at the moment. DJ says it's surprising to find that Apple is losing on Apple TV. Yeah, I'm not sure it's surprising. They just don't have that many subscribers. And they had Ted Lasso, that was big for them. They have Severance, which is big for them. But Apple can afford to lose on Apple TV, though, because if their branding is about being the best, which it always has been, the Mac was always the great computer, and iPhones are like the best phone, as it were. That let's not have an argument about that. I'm talking about their marketing point. Then they need their TV to be really good, and it is really good. I think Apple give HBO a good run for their money, and actually probably are more consistent. Netflix was losing money, Flux, you're right, for the longest time. I'm not even sure it's making money now, but now it has adverts. And the other day I've been always, Den and I have always shared a Netflix because Netflix once posted, "Love is sharing your Netflix password." So, Den and I, lots of love there, we'll share a Netflix. And I was in his family sort of thing. Uh, and that stopped working now. So I've had to finally subscribe to Netflix. So maybe it is making a profit. Maybe my 13.99 makes a difference. Right. What questions? Lobster Gorn. What is your favourite advert from the game, including DLCs? Uh, that's a really good question. Favourite advert. Trying to remember them all now because it feels like so long ago. I've got a soft spot for Johnny Ham sleeves. Got to say, very soft spot for Johnny Ham sleeves. Uh, his workout video advert, that was a lot of fun to shoot. The two dancers were absolutely brilliant. Claire, one of them, went on to be our choreographer. Mm. No, songs of the new future. Songs of the new future, because it was so complicated and there's so many amazing shots in there. The little bit of betterment where we do the long track down the corridor with the dancers, and the mad one where he's, I'll unburden you. That one where we had to go out in the fields with our beautiful dancers who we'd made look like they were dying. Yeah, and we had the opera singer back for that one to shoot all that stuff with the puppy. Oh my God, that was a cracker. Yeah, that was really, really good. Check Your Prostate is up there though, I will say, DJ. That is a good thing. Haydar, was there anything you cut from the game? Nothing that had to do with budget. Yes, Haydar, there was loads that got cut from the game. An entire level got cut from the game. We had meant to do it in 10 levels, not including time loop, because not time loop, lockdown, because lockdown obviously happened because of lockdown, and we just put the main story on hold, and were able to hopefully write something that fleshed out some of the themes and characters without actually notching on the canon. Had lockdown gone on for a further year or two, in the way it was at first, when we literally weren't allowed to get the cast on set, um, we would never have made it to the end of the story. Anyway, because we did lockdown and spanked loads of our budget on that, it meant that we couldn't do the original plan, which was to go um, after it would have run as it ran up to the end of chapter 6 or chapter 7. Then there would have been an episode all about Peter Clement's death, which would have happened very near to Christmas, so that by the end of the game, Christmas would have been renamed Leaders' Day, which ties into that song. This idea that regimes keep the dates of things, but they change their meaning. Uh, it's like, so yeah, there would have been a lot more made of Peter's death, so that the reveal later on about Julia um, basically ordering his death would have been hopefully all the more impactful. Whereas actually Peter's death got reduced to some headlines and, the odd thing, but nothing like the episode we had planned. And I would imagine, although I cannot remember, I can't. I would have to dig out the original treatment of the game, which is a huge long document with what we originally planned. It's what we originally pitched to Tiny Build, and it's like a novella. It's about 35,000 odd words. It describes all the game mechanics and all the plot twists that we had planned. I should imagine everyone's got different names in it. Well, certainly Wildish is going to be named in it because we were doing it that way. I don't think we had Jeff Algebra. Uh, and we were going to put out 4 chapters. So you would have got 2 levels and then a break and then another 2 levels. That's how we were going to do it. That became incredibly expensive because every time we span down production and then span it back up, uh, that costs a fortune. All the actors cost more every time you need them because they kind of know they've got you. Uh, so, yeah. Okay. I hope that helps. Uh, most streaming services lose money, sharing codes, check your prostate. Jay moving with hands like he gets self vibe. I'm not sure I understand that, Roman. Uh, I hope it's not a rude thing. What do you think the funniest moment in the game is? Still Peter getting electrocuted? For me, the funniest moment in the game might be Patrick Bannon's scene in Time Loop. I think that's really funny. Uh, I really like Eamon getting hit over the head with a vase. Uh, I like the moment where the policeman stands up and it's a cheap joke, but I like it. It makes me laugh. Uh, there are lots of little funny moments. One of the things we often refer to is Jay's us going, "Oi, Rich, I'll write that down." That comes up loads. I think that's really funny. There are lots of little things that stick out as funny, little catchphrasey things. So lockdown's budget is the reason we don't have that Christmas broadcast. I would say COVID is the reason you don't have that Christmas broadcast. Uh, as much as I love the game, I still like Peter's death broadcast is made. Yeah, we couldn't put it in there. It's a good surprise for day 912, and it would have come as a surprise because we would have done the day of the state funeral. So that would have been what you'd have come back to. I think it happens way too late for it because his death feels unimportant because of that. Exactly, it would have felt less unimportant. You see, we were building to that in episode two. That's why in episode two, if you've been very pro advance with your broadcast, Peter is beginning to get healthy and he's using the exercise bike and he's drinking milk and he's getting his life kind of together. And then it's even more suspicious when suddenly he's had this heart attack, which is how we were going to do it. um, because actually you'd seen he was getting well. And they'd be going, oh, well, Peter, he led a very salubrious life and, did drink a lot, and implying that he brought it on himself. And we wanted the players to be like, well, actually, he was doing well. And conversely, if you were editing against Advance and he had become more and more angry and drunk, we wanted you to kind of believe what Advance were telling you and think, okay, well, he could have died, because the aim was to make you question your beliefs. Whatever you've come to accept is the truth in this world. Hopefully, the next bits that come up confront that. Uh, that's really, really important. That's what a good story should. That's what life should be. We should be questioning our beliefs all the time instead of yelling at other people for not sharing them, because then we can enjoy other humans. And for me, like, people are the reason to be alive. Communication with people are wonderful. The vast majority of them are lovely, and provided you don't back them into a corner, they're pretty amazing people, and we've built an amazing world and an amazing society that still needs work but is constantly going in the right way. The overall trend is good. Less poverty than ever before, less war than ever before, more rights for more people than ever before. The general trend of history, blips like the Second World War accepted, is still good and positive. So anyway, that's that. Um, right. I would like to ask one more question. This will be the last question though, because it's nearly 6 o'clock. So Theodore 612, could you tell me the exact date of Megan's birth? I can't. I'm afraid. I am so sorry. Andy Murray might be able to when he's back, but I'm not even sure we know. Uh, Roman, don't worry. Just when I'm back home, I see you moving with hands and closed eyes, dancing like a you get music vibe inside. Okay, fair enough. I think the Peter twist still works. Yeah, so do I. I don't think it doesn't work. I just think we could have made it more impactful. And I don't regret what we put out. Just because things changed along the way doesn't mean they're necessarily worse now. It's just things are different. If we had stuck to the original plan, Wildish would have been, you wouldn't have had Alan James. There's no doubt that that improved it. DJ, I'm asking it again since I don't think Jay saw it. Do I want to see the introduction level for next month's quiz? I can't now, Deej, because it's nearly 6 o'clock. I'd rather just come into it fresh next month, but thank you for the offer. I appreciate it. Theodore, sorry, I don't know that. I don't even know how old Megan is. I'm sure it is written down somewhere, though. I think I'm sure. And it's the sort of thing Andy would have known. A world without Alan James would not be the same. Can't believe an hour has passed. I know how time flies. And there goes my alarm. Um, I want to thank all of you for putting up with me talking non-stop for an hour. I can feel it in my throat. Uh, Thank you for sticking around. I hope some of what was said was useful to you. Hopefully next month there'll be more than one of me, so it'll be funnier. I'm ready for next month, Deej. Let me just check that. Check the date. I'm rehearsing at the moment for Pride and Prejudice. Um, so I'll just check it doesn't clash with the rehearsal. It shouldn't do that. No, June the 2nd. I've got that we're doing it a bit later that day. That we're doing 5:30 to 6:30 now. Why do I have that? Yes. That month we're starting a little. I think it was to allow for Alex and Andy to get there because it starts a little early for them. So I'm going to make that 5:30 till 7 because your quiz lasts uh, about an hour and a half, I believe. I can't go much later than 7, no, because I have to go to a Pride and Prejudice rehearsal. Looking forward to Guildford as well. Oh, are you coming? Are you? Oh, excellent, Ree. Make sure that we meet. That would be good. I'd love to put a face to the name. Although, from the name Ree, Shadow of Shimra, I will be disappointed if you don't carry katanas and, like, samurai swords. Don't, though, because they'll definitely not let you into the play. But, hi, Oshel. Bit late for hi. Hi, DKW Dove. What you've missed, not much, mate, but we're all done. So thank you all for coming. See you next month, probably 5:30. Keep an eye on the announcements. I know we tend to do them late. That was my fault. I forgot to ask Jackie to do them. Uh, uh, so don't give Jackie any crap because Jackie's awesome. Thank you, Flux. Lovely to see you. Thank you, DJ, for keeping the conversation flowing so well. Thanks to all of you that asked questions. Sorry if you did want to ask a question or I missed it. And have a great, great month. See you in 3 weeks because this one was late. Bye.